All right. And away we go. Welcome back, everybody. Rare opportunity. Here is Mama Cat. Hi, honey. Here is Mama Cat. She's getting over her fear. So I can actually handle her now. Sitting in my lap here for a minute. Still can't walk very well. Still trying to get her into the vet to be seen. It's okay. Here you go. Sit right there. There's another look at her. You can see how tiny she is. She's really not that old. Or just let her sit there quietly. She's still pretty fearful, but she's warming up. And this one, because you can't resist getting in the way. Yeah, that's the mama, who is spayed. Already been spayed. Spayed not too long since she's been nursing. Her teats are still protruded. So it's not so long since she's weaned off from feeding babies. Who does that? You know, I don't even want to get into it. It frustrates the hell out of me. People just piss me off. But like I said, she's also injured, so she still hobbles around. She keeps one leg bent pretty much all the time, trying to get her in to be seen to see if it's it doesn't. I don't think it's broken because there's no swelling at all. Could be sprained, you know, and she keeps re-injuring it because she's a cat. It is what it is. Anyway, we'll get to the news here in a few minutes. I'll take a look at everybody who's joining us this afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in middle of nowhere, Georgia. Currently, Monday, September 4th. Already September 4th. As we plow on, and of course, this is Coffee Talk, or at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, or simultaneously broadcasting on Prepper University on YouTube also, or fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, where you can find me Monday through Thursday at 4 and Friday at noon. And so who have we got here today? So far, we've got Helter. And of course, I read as many comments as I can for people who are listening and not watching. Dragon is here. Keisha is here. Bams is here. He says, pushing too many pencils. Helter says, I can see and hear you. Thank you. Places you can't go, says howdy. Female busybody. Mama cat. Yeah. She's sweetheart too. It does not like other cats near her, though. It's weird. But then Miss Kitty is like that. But Miss Kitty is also more difficult to handle. This one's easier to handle. Zane is here. Monkey is joining us. PV is here. Zane said it sounds like his dog broke his leg and it healed awfully. And then All People is here. Urban is here as we plow into this. Thanks for joining us, everybody, on another Monday. And we move right along and take a look at some of the things that are in the media. Also, I did a short this weekend showing a package scam that I had caught at the flea market. And a lot of people do not understand what is going on there. And they got mad at me. They think I'm interfering with something. But I'm going to have to do a whole video explaining that. It's not some guys with some Amazon packages. It's like a global multi-billion-dollar scam. No kidding. And I know what it is because it was, first of all, I've been subjected to it a few times myself through eBay and through Amazon. And secondly, when I was living in Elgin, Illinois, there was a vacant house there that was connected to this. It's a whole big network and it starts in China. It's almost always going to be a Chinese company. Starts in China and ends at a flea market like that. And it's really weird, but I'm going to have to explain the whole thing. Yeah. Zane says package scam. Yeah, I did a short and it's Amazon package scam caught at the flea market. I forget how I titled it, but I'm going to have to explain it. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, pondering to myself, I wonder if I should report this, if it'd be even any point to telling, because I can almost guarantee if I called the police, they would have arrested these guys. And it was 4 Chinese guys. But I know the scam because I've seen it. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're a Karen. Why don't you mind your business? And yeah, if it happened to you, you wouldn't be saying that. But I'm going to do a whole video on it explaining it. It could be Temu. Female Busybody says, is it Temu? I've had it done to me on eBay and on Amazon. And some of you may have had it done and didn't even realize it. You ever order something and get a tracking number and never receive your package? That's part of it. There is a legitimate number, tracking number, and it's verified delivered, but you don't have it. What happened? I'll do the whole thing in a video explaining it in detail, because obviously from the comments, which shouldn't surprise me at all, a lot of people don't understand, and of course they get angry instead of trying to figure it out. Megan is here, and she says, is it where you get a package you didn't order? No, that's not it. And Female Busybody says, I don't trust that Temu thing. I wonder if they're distributing toxic chemicals to people. It's suspiciously cheap. Yeah, it's because it's cheap junk and it's outdated and they can't get rid of it. But now we'll go ahead and we'll dive into the regular news. But yeah, I'll probably, if I have time, I'll try to get that video up tomorrow. And you may find it interesting. Like I said, it's almost always going to be a Chinese company. It starts in China. They have a satellite distribution center either in California or Washington State, where you think you're ordering it from. Because if you thought you were ordering it from China, you might not get it. But they use a satellite on the West Coast, and then they ship it to other spots in the United States, but you never actually get your package. And then it ends up in a situation like in that video short where there's a bunch of Chinese guys at a flea market with like sacks full of unopened packages that they're selling for $2 a piece. No kidding. And they're full of garbage. If you bought one, you'd be pissed off. It's like the old Saturday Night Live sketch. It was a 90s sketch where they had the $25,000 mystery bags on Beverly Hills, and every one of them had a corncob pipe in it. Zane says Temu backdoors your computer. And Zane says Temu also adds third-party applications that spy on your router activities. That's interesting. Yeah, they look suspicious anyways. But jumping into the news media, taking a look at, of all things, the migrant crisis. Again, the migrant crisis again. And here it comes, and this is from the Daily Mail. And they're just highlighting the trouble that this is causing in New York City. It says 41 people arrested at New York City hotel since it became a migrant shelter. And you see the migrants out here. These people came across the southern border. Let that sink in. Do they look South American to you? Anyways, and this was, from my understanding, once a prominent hotel. 41 people arrested at New York City hotel since it became a migrant shelter. Just this weekend, a 30-year-old man was taken into custody after he was accused of endangering a child in the Midtown Hotel. The alleged victim was his 11-year-old daughter. The Manhattan DA's office has opted not to pursue charges in the case, I bet. In another horrific case, a hotel worker was whacked with a no parking sign in June after the migrant was removed from the building because of his behavior that caused a site visit from Mayor Eric Adams, who vowed to investigate the incidences. And you see that they're still not getting investigated because it's still going on. As we try to continue on here, I hate these cascading ones. Those people look more South American. Away from the Roosevelt, a woman... Did it skip? These things are so annoying. Let me see if I can get it to straighten out. Sorry for the delay. Just that this type of cascading system, it's annoying. Away from the Roosevelt, a woman 20 was arrested last week and accused of attacking a New York police department officer who was impounding her unregistered motorcycle at the Stratford Arms Hotel, located in the city's swanky Upper West Side section. A month previously, that same woman was arrested and accused of attacking her boyfriend. She was out on bail a few days later. Revolving door politics. Just last week, New York Governor Kathy Hochul met White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients and other senior Biden administration officials on Wednesday to discuss the influx. Couldn't meet with Biden because he said he was too busy to talk to her. You all remember that from last week. During the meeting, the Biden administration agreed to work with both New York State and New York City to close, quote, the gap between non-citizens who are eligible for work authorization and those who have applied. The White House said in a statement, the administration also committed to starting a first-of-its-kind national campaign with information on how to apply for employment authorization. Oh, my God. So they're not going to fix the problem. They're just going to try to get them jobs so that they can tax them and register them as voters, I guess, because that's not going to solve the problem. Megan, commenting on the previous discussion there, says, don't buy anything from Facebook Marketplace either. Urban says, well, the retail stores are already all closing. Next will be the hotels. The hotels will be destroyed. Keisha says a couple of states want people to open their homes to migrants and take care of them. That's right. And I read an article about that a week ago that they were funding, including New York, providing funds to have people allow them to stay at their homes. And I'm like, that's a huge mistake. That would be a huge mistake. PV says most of these people are flying into Ecuador, which has lax policies facilitated through the Darien Gap and up through Mexico by NGOs such as the Red Cross, etc. Yeah, they're funneling in from all over the place and winding up on our southern border, and then they're getting transported all over the country because the southern states that border South America and south of the United States and other regions like that can't handle the influx of people. Megan says, I wonder if the government will take away citizenship later if they don't vote the way they're told. That's a possibility. That wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, this is the Upper West Side is a big deal, and these hotels are or were big deal hotels. Hey, they took the money. They took the money. The hotels are getting wrecked. The neighborhoods are getting run down. It's going to bury them eventually. And then what are they going to have? All money isn't good money, especially if the government's trying to pay you off to do something. It's a mistake. Dusty, everybody, sleeping in the chair behind me there, if you hadn't seen her. Keeping me company today. Usually it's Daniel sleeping back there. But yeah, like I said, all money's not good money. And especially if the government comes around and says, hey, we'll pay you to do this, we'll pay you to do that, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You should think twice about that. You should think twice about that. And so should these businesses. They should have been more careful. It's going to ruin them. It's ruining the neighborhoods. It's destroying the hotels. There's only so much damage the hotels can take before the money isn't worth it anymore. And they're coming out of pocket for repairs. And then again, employees have been harassed and attacked. How long before they don't want to work there anymore? PV says they're selling themselves out. Correct. And Dragon says, like so many things in this city, coherent planning and decisive leadership on a pressing issue just doesn't seem to be in the offering. The peons in New York City have to foot the bill. Absolutely. And then Helter says, Adam Hochul and Biden have a plan to keep kicking this problem around, avoiding blame indefinitely. It's all Trump's fault, right? They do actually blame Trump, even though they changed his policies after they took office. Urban says the migrant vote harvesting plan might backfire on the Democrats because even migrants don't want more migrants to compete with. Also, another aspect that they're not considering is that many of them, the ones that are fleeing socialist governments. And if it looks like that's the direction the U.S. is going in, they're not going to want to back that. That's another one that the Biden administration and others like them have not considered. Derp says, hello, yeah, it's sad people take money versus having morals. Indeed. But that's the way of the world. That's how most people are, unfortunately. You pay them enough. That's the old adage, everyone has a price. Not exactly true, but most people do. There are people you can't touch that will never compromise on something, but there are many, many who will. Sane says, I was told to move my whole store to Facebook Market. Were you? Monkey says, surprised the migrants in New York City haven't destroyed the whole hotels yet at this point. Give them time. And Monkey says, as in collapsing the whole building itself. I see. And Urban says, exactly. Just look at the Cuban voters for Trump. Yeah, that's why. I mean, some of them actually swam to get here, or took a rowboat or something extremely dangerous to get over here. Why? Because they wanted to get out from under Castro. You know, the ones who have been down in Miami for a long time, been down in Florida for a long time, they fought to get out of that country to escape the socialist government and the oppression. It was scary in Cuba. It still kind of is. I mean, they've softened up quite a bit, but what do you expect? These people are escaping that sort of a lifestyle. A lot of them are. And speaking of stupid political policies, this is a story, and I wanted to talk about this last week, but I couldn't get to it. But I just can't resist because this is so stupid. And this is on Newsmax. Again, you can find this story elsewhere, but I just picked Newsmax for no reason. Chicago Democrat asks gangs to limit shootings to late hours. Beautiful. Keisha says immigrant people that came here are so mad at these illegals. Yeah. And I've heard that too. There's a lot of people that fought to get into this country, that worked hard, that took the classes, that learned the language, that got had a work visa or got a work permit and tried to do the right thing. And now these people are just pouring over the border, getting all sorts of benefits and money and whatever. And they're like, hey, what did I go through all this for? And it's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate question. So back to Chicago. It was always something stupid in Chicago, it seems. And I believe it's an alderman who said this. And this was last week. But like I said, I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but I wanted to talk about it because of how stupid it is. It's an alderman, and they're like their solution to the gun violence. Their solution to the gun violence is to try to negotiate with the gangs to get them to not shoot each other in daylight. Fluke Man says Biden probably hoping many of the migrants vote because he let them into the country. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Yeah, that's the idea, but it doesn't always work that way. And Female Busybody says that's me, a naturalized citizen. There you go. And I see PV's already laughing at this article. Rodney is here. And Rodney says the behavior of leadership of most Western nations is so insane. It's like we're living in an episode of The Twilight Zone. Yeah, I know. It's scary. It really is. And here's an example of it. A Chicago Democrat is asking gang members to limit shooting guns in the city to the overnight hours. Maria Hayden, a Democrat alderwoman, recently promoted the proposal from community group Native Sons in an email newsletter called, quote, the People's Ordinance. The proposal asks gang members to refrain from shooting between 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Why didn't I think of that? We'll just curfew murder. What do they want? The purge? Oh, do whatever you want after 9 p.m. When the sun goes down, it's all good. That's the purge. That's hilarious. Quote, we have to start somewhere, Native Sons co-founder Tatiana Atkins said of the proposal, according to CWBC Chicago. Quote again, our goal is to approach our city's gun violence problem strategically and not all at once. Things don't become this way overnight, and change won't happen overnight. That's true. Under this ordinance, we ask that people stop associating with and glorifying shooters, stop glorifying switches, and stop wearing those ski masks everywhere, which perpetuates you as some op, Atkins said. Why do you think they're running around in ski masks in broad daylight, sweetheart? I don't know what to tell you. When those who live in certain lifestyles try to hang with regular class citizens, they put everyone at risk. I love how she tries to slip the slang in there so she sounds like she's hip and dope and down, bro. You dig? You feel me? Lifestyle try to hang with regular class citizens. Switches, and they explain here, are aftermarket devices that turn some semi-automatic handguns into automatic weapons. Yeah, okay, which are illegal, right? Quote, if people know that after a certain hour, the likelihood of them being shot by an unknown and unprovoked assailant are at higher risk, they'll be less likely to be out and about, and they may become more proactive with the supervision of their children, she continued. This just gets more stupid. They know the type of neighborhoods where they shouldn't be. It doesn't matter if there's a curfew for shootings. If they want to hang around down there, they're going to do it. This is just incredible. Oh, I see. I need to catch up on some of these comments here, so I'll read through a few of them. Dragon says, so instead of going after criminals, their best idea is to plead with the criminals and ask them to do the right thing by not committing crimes during daylight. Yeah, that's correct. Keisha says requesting the time of your shootings is ridiculous. And All People says, little known fact, the majority of blacks in Chicago inner city are from post 1965 migrant families, Haiti, Jamaica, so on and so forth. And Ali is here. Sorry. Hey guys, stop doing crime. I'm trying to sleep. Yeah, I know. Now you got to hear shooting all night and you're trying to get a good night's rest. Helter says this also suggests law-abiding citizens should not be on the street after 9. As usual, the Democrats want to restrict everyone in a vain attempt to lower crime rates. Exactly. And Derp says, I'm truly surprised people can't see this is all by design. It's the corruption and demoralization of Western countries. Once you do that, you can totally control them. Art of War, no one sees it. How many people you think have actually read Art of War? Whoa. Okay. And okay, come here. And of those, how many you think were actually able to understand it, were able to interpret it? Hi, buddy. How you doing? I'll try to get through some more of these comments. Monkey says this is their attempt to stop the gang shootings. He's laughing, of course. And then Derp says again, too busy fighting each other. Urban says gang curfew. Exactly. I know. Maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll be able to negotiate because, you know, people like this, they think they can talk their way through anything and it doesn't work. Sometimes you need a heavy hand in order to get the point across, and they don't understand this. I remember one person, he was a political activist, and they asked him, well, what would you do if an armed assailant broke into your house to burglarize your home while you were there? And he actually said he would try to reason with him. You're going to try to reason with a man with a gun who broke into your house to rob you. Yeah, you try that. I hope he gets, I actually hope that something happens to him just so he can see how that won't work. Zane said, good news, gang membership has gone down. Yeah. Bam says, possibly the gang members need free night vision. They probably already have it. And Monkey said, gang members at 8:59 a.m. about to rob someone. I know there's so much you can say about this. Wait till 9:01. Derp says, literally everything is made to divide people, left versus right, vax versus no vax, mask versus no max, and everything. Exactly. You're right. And Bob says, greetings, felicitations, and salutations. Thanks for joining us today, Bob. We're just talking about how stupid lawmakers are. Urban says it reminds me of pro-BLM businesses that were destroyed in the 2020 riots. They all had signs to tell BLM they were on board and to please not destroy them. And no, it did not work. They got hit hard. And Derp says people just need to depose the government and start fresh, as it's been invaded and taken over by minions of people that hate the West. Yeah, Derp says, there's the little Betty. Yeah, one of the kittens here keeping me busy. And Cruising says, wasn't expecting you to be working on Labor Day. Yeah, most people still are unless they work for the government. Stefan says, what's up? I'm going to be playing some games while I listen. Thanks for joining us today. Now, let me see. One more here. I'll read one more paragraph. This goes on and on and on, but I'll give you one more here. It says, we have to start somewhere. Did I read that part? Okay, I did read that part. Under the ordinance, we asked that people stop associating with and glorifying shooters. I read that. It bounced. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, 5-year-olds are being killed by gun violence. 14-year-olds are being killed by gun violence. 78-year-olds are being killed by gun violence. Pregnant women are being killed. Young boys with bright futures, I don't know about that, are being killed by gun violence. Fathers are being killed. This shouldn't be happening. You should mention also that 14 and younger people are some of the ones doing that gun violence. As a matter of fact, most often they are. The story I remember from last week about that ring of carjackers that were arrested in DC. And it was 3 boys, 14, 15, and 16 years old, and 2 girls, 13, armed group carjackings that have been taking place for months in DC. So, yeah, those are also your shooters as well as your victims. And as far as a bright future, yeah, everybody has a bright future if they're willing to pursue it, and most aren't. While the community group calls the proposal an ordinance, no legislation has been drafted codifying and enhanced penalties for those who shoot their guns between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., according to CWBC. So, that's your solution. So to encourage them, to encourage them to cooperate with the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. ordinance, you'll increase the penalties for daylight shootings, because the penalties you have in place already are working. I don't think they are. So, yeah, more laws for the people who ignore laws will somehow solve the problem. Yeah, I get it now. I understand. Zane says the big gangs like the Bloods and Crips are losing more members than they're gaining. And Monkey says reminds of someone that said that if someone broke into their home with a gun, they would use karate to stop them. Yeah, you better be sneaky and quick. Zane says they've started recruiting members of other races at higher numbers, but that still hasn't helped them. And Helter says there was a time in America when gangs and criminals in general had a healthy fear of and respect for the justice system. That's because, they had the illusion that the justice system was playing by a set of rules. And so if you have a set of rules for yourself and you follow them, even a criminal can sit there and say, okay, I get that. I respect you for it. But all too often, and more so in the modern era, it becomes painfully apparent that they do not stick by those rules, that they're just as dirty as the people they're going after. And so how can you respect that? Oh, I've got a code, but I don't have to follow it. Why should I respect you? If you have a code and follow it, all right, I can live with that. And there used to be an understanding, actually, between gangs and branches of law enforcement based on that. And we've gotten further and further away from it in this country. And then Derp says those numbers are gematria. They do that stuff in the news all the time. Numbers chosen by Jesuits. It's all over the place if you dare look into it. Hey, buddy, what are you trying to do? You trying to get my attention? Huh? You see I'm busy here, right? For those of you who can't see, I've got a kitten climbing up my shirt. And then who are we as we catch up here and move on to the next subject? Mr. Mike says, just watch a video detailing how most of the riots were located in opportunity zones where billionaires could later invest tax-free. Yeah. And then Deanna says, Grand Theft Auto players coming out. Indeed. As we switch to the next topic here. No, please don't go near the keyboard. Come back here. Come on back. No keyboards for you. I don't have a name for him yet. Still working on it. There he is, guys. There's our little friend. They are very, very friendly. They're very, very friendly. So next subject, we're talking about the Resident Inn thief. And you all know who that is. That would be old sweet Uncle Joe. Old sweet Uncle Joe. He's a sweetheart. He's such a great guy. He's so trustworthy and honest. Bam says, Burning Man, wonder if they're going to be sacrificed. And this article, don't chew. Stop biting my hand. Comes from Fox News. And it says, Biden says he hasn't been able to break for East Palatine visit despite Lake Tahoe getaway and DE trips. And of course, DE is Delaware. So he's being called out now. He delayed for 13 days going to Maui. He didn't show up at Maui for 13 days, and people called him out on that. And then they're calling him out for Palatine, which of course was the train derailment. He still hasn't been there after saying he was going to go, and he's making excuses for it here. There he is. It says President Biden said Saturday that he hasn't had the time to visit East Palestine, Ohio, 7 months after the small town was devastated by a train derailment, despite recently embarking on a long family getaway in Nevada and taking multiple trips to Delaware just in the last month. He's had about 2 months worth of vacation. Actually, from my understanding is within the time frame, he's taken more vacations than any other sitting president within the first couple of years of office. I don't know if that's true or not, but I remember reading that recently. Biden was giving a press conference in Live Oak, Florida, in the aftermath of Hurricane Idalia, when he was asked why he hadn't yet visited East Palestine since the February 3rd derailment that polluted the environment and contaminated water. Quote, I haven't had the occasion to go to East Palestine. We know that. That's why they're asking you. The president responded, there's a lot going on here, and I just haven't been able to get a break. He looks like he's having a nice break right there. And that's Rehoboth Beach in Delaware, where that photo was taken on August 13th. I don't know. Looks like, I mean, he just needs to be there for one day. Can't do that. Quote, I was thinking that I would go to East Palestine this week, but I've been reminded I've got to go literally around the world. He continued, I'm going from Washington to India to Vietnam to, so it's going to be a while. But we're making sure that East Palestine has what they need materially in order to deal with the problem. Biden was criticized for not visiting East Palestine immediately following the derailment, and he has yet to travel to the area since, though he promised on March 2nd to visit, quote, at some point. At some point. I think this is a typo. I think that's supposed to be TOO2. India and Vietnam 2, and then a break. And that should be a comma, actually. So it's going to be a while. But, that's just me nitpicking again. And Cruising says 3 brothers, could name them after the 3 amigos. Yeah, they are three males. He's still here trying to walk on my keyboard. They are all 3 boys, unless I made a mistake looking at them. Urban says the first retired president in history. I know, because he's had a lot of vacations, to my understanding. Flukeman said if businesses put signs outside their stores, Democrats, left wing, and police are barred until you start arresting criminals and punish them. With today's policies, you hurt my feelings. It may just work. PV says they seem to have the time to travel when they're on their campaign trails. Very true, PV. Monkey said, remember the media attacked Trump for his little golf visits, but for Biden not showing up to places after disasters, everyone is silent. And that is also correct. And he has had extended vacations. I mean, I think he's been down for a couple of months now until Hawaii. Excuse me. And Derp says he delayed those 13 days to get the numbers right. He went there on the 64th birthday of Hawaii. It's all by the numbers. That's a good point. Joe Biden equals 64 in gematria. People need to wake up to how they do things. But yeah, he did wait. Ali says, last I knew, he has jets and helicopters and thousands of cars. Bam says, Athos, Porthos, Armis for cats' names. Armis. And Helter said the people of the U.S. are screaming for the federal government to take care of us. They don't realize that we pay the salaries of all these people who don't watch out for us. Well, it's out of sight, out of mind. That was the old argument of like, oh, I pay your salary. My tax dollars pay your salary. People don't even think on those terms anymore because, quite frankly, it's not really enforceable. So it's like, yeah, you know what? Your tax dollars pay his salary. And so what? You think he doesn't know that? Do you think he cares? Do you think he's not going to get paid because you're upset about it or because you have a problem with it? Do you think that their programs aren't going to still get funded because they decided to spend because you decided that you didn't want them to spend your tax money. Well, they're just going to take it and spend it anyways, and there's not anything we can do. So it's like it's a moot point, and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And then our only option is to vote them out if you don't like it. Vote them out. And they're getting called out left and right. It's nonstop. I mean, the press can't even cover up for this guy anymore. And they have been trying really hard, but they can't even really cover it anymore. And still nobody seems to care because people feel helpless. Cruising says not enforceable, and I question what percentage of Democratic voters are paying taxes. Y'all, why? Because they're not alive. I told you that I told this story before. Some of you may not have heard it, so I'm going to run it over real quick just to make the point. Now, many of you know, my wife and I used to work in a mental health facility. These are people that are inpatients. They are people who are wards of the state. They cannot live in the community. They cannot be alone in the community. They can't go to the mailbox by themselves. Some of them are physically dangerous and have to be monitored at all times because they could hurt someone, have hurt someone, in a few cases, killed a person and gotten away with it because they're mentally ill. No fooling. Cruising says not alive and on the government dole. Yeah. All of our patients who legally are not able to make decisions for themselves, okay, all registered to vote. The law says they have to be registered. We can't take them to a polling station, and they can't make that kind of a decision. They can't decide what kind of shirt to put on in the morning. They can't decide between pudding and a slice of cake. Some of them can't speak. I have a few people I've worked with that can't speak. I had one guy I worked with, I've mentioned it before, because he was really physically dangerous, could not discern language. So if you speak to him, he doesn't know what you're saying, and he cannot speak to you. Registered voter. But again, we can't bring them in. We can't mail ballots for them. We can't do any of that for them. They're not allowed to make a decision, but they're registered voters. I'd be curious to look their names up and see if they have voted, just as an example. But again, speaking of people being fed up with these people and their administration, and this comes from the American Insider, and it says, "Done biting my tongue, video of Gold Star dad should end Joe Biden's career." It should, but it won't. It should, but it won't. And a couple here from Zane, and we'll get into this, or one from Zane. It says, "My bees are very active today." Well, it's good. Make your own honey. We want to do our own honey here, actually. Hello, buddy. And Bam says, "You're describing the average voter." It sure, all right. It sure, come here. It sure seems that way. Sorry, cat distraction. And Gold Star dad, a Gold Star mother, father, parent, is someone whose child died in combat or while on military duty, particularly in war or in a war situation, declared or otherwise. And I think, and I could be wrong, I'm trying to remember. I think it started in World War I, where if you had someone who went to war, you'd put a blue star. And if they died, you would change the blue star to a gold one. And so they carry the tradition by calling them Gold Star parents, Gold Star dad, Gold Star mom. You get the idea. If I'm off on that anywhere, you can go ahead and put it in the description. If I remember correctly, I think that's what it means. And I've talked about this before because he's basically insulted these people when he met with them. He could barely stay awake. He sat there and blithered on about Beau Biden dying in Afghanistan, which we all know is a lie now. He did not die overseas at all. He made it all about him. Fluke Man says Trump visit to the train wreck, but didn't think he visited Maui. I'm surprised he hasn't already been there with supplies. That would be a good move for him. Well, although it might be hard for him because he's tied up right now, and especially with federal charges, it may be difficult for him to leave the mainland, if that makes any sense. You know how like sometimes they're like, don't leave the state. And in his case, it may be don't cross the border. And I'd be interested to find out if that's what it is. But reading here, Mark Schmitz, a Gold Star dad, lost his son during President Joe Biden's disastrous withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. At least 180 people were killed during a suicide bombing at the unsecured Kabul airport, which included 13 U.S. servicemen and women. Schmitz's son, Marine Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, was one of those killed in the Kabul bombing. Appearing on Capitol Hill to testify before the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Mark Schmitz summed up Biden's presidency by calling him a coward and a disgrace to the nation. And let me see. This is a quote, I identify as a father, a husband, a pissed off, fed up American patriot, he began, and now thanks to this administration, a Gold Star dad, a title no one ever wants to have. Our so-called leader can't even utter their names in public, not even once. That is true, and he's been called on it several times. Schmidt continued, Mr. Biden has run his entire political campaign for 50 years as a family man. That campaign slogan will never work again. We have been seeing what is going on in your family, and even worse, we've seen how you have been treating us, the Gold Star families. There cannot be anything more cowardly and disgusting with how you treated us, he said. You are a disgrace to the nation. Every person who walked away from that event was either angry or in tears. He really blew it with that, but he's still the president, and still nothing's going to be done about it. We've been lied to about what happened that day, as well as what happened to our children. We've been lied to about our relationship with the Taliban, which, by the way, have done more to take out the leaders of this attack than our own leadership has. Following the deadly attack, Biden lied about his son dying in combat and notoriously checked his watch multiple times while waiting for the fallen soldier to reach the tarmac at Dover Air Force Base. Biden's son died years after his service due to cancer. Again, and that is true. He did not die in Afghanistan. He wasn't killed in Afghanistan like Biden's always saying. He died years after retirement. Following the deadly attack, Biden, I read that. Last portion here. As you can probably tell by now, I'm done biting my tongue, Schmitz said while addressing Biden. You, sir, stole their lives, their futures, their dreams. You ripped apart 13 families. You cannot even man up and admit that. You, sir, gave us all the title Gold Star family. You, sir, discredit honor and integrity. Ouch. Ouch. Catching up the comments here. Dragon says, I once heard someone make the comment, there hasn't been any politicians tarred and feathered for a long time, and it shows. Powerful statement. Yeah, that used to happen. Although mostly, I think that was something that was done to the tax collector, taxmen who pushed it too far. Fluke Man says, okay, I get it, but couldn't Trump send someone to Maui to represent him with a huge boat, say Trump's on the side of the boat? That's a good point, Fluke Man. I'm not discrediting you. I'm just wondering if, and then he would want to do it himself, because that just looks better looking at it politically. But yeah, I would have made a better effort, I think, if I was in his position. Megan says, what is disturbing is that nobody running for president will address whether warfare and do that we are seeing all over the U.S. and the world. By not addressing it, they're enabling us to use, they're enabling using those weapons. PV says the Gold Star dad is right. Makes me wonder how or if Biden can be ousted from office. Not bloody likely. It's extremely difficult, as you have seen. Again, even impeachment doesn't actually do anything. It would take a lot. It's going to take some antifreeze in his coffee is what it's going to take. And that's not going to happen either. Helter says Biden will never resign, and certainly not over this. That would mean accepting responsibility and being accountable for his own actions that resulted in this incident. And he's not accountable. I mean, the guy's been in politics for decades. He's been in politics like over 50 years and has really nothing to show for it. It's kind of like when we were talking about Jesse Jackson a couple of weeks ago and his retirement. He's been decades as an activist. He really has nothing to show. He hasn't actually accomplished much of anything. It's incredible that these people can do this. These people, I mean, sure, maybe something might have benefited somebody that he signed off on, some bill or some vote that he did that by coincidence was useful. But himself stepping forward and stepping up and invoking a change that was actually mutually beneficial to people, I don't think it's there. Yet we're talking about somebody who's been decades as a politician. And again, I think that makes these people dangerously out of touch with reality. They don't care about anything except themselves, their own political agenda, their income, their money. It's incredible. And Cyberjack Senior says Cyberjacker or Cyberjack comes from a Palladium RPG, a paper and dice game called Rifts. Okay. Letting everybody know what your moniker is for. Urban says, who is ruining America? More than just politicians. Complacent people, corrupt politicians, corrupt activists, bought and paid for celebrities of all walks of life, musicians, actors, whatever, that will suck up and do anything to keep the money rolling. People's greed and selfishness, people's inability to take responsibility for their actions and move forward or move above their station, ethically speaking, not talking about like making more money or whatever, but just even ethically speaking. Because you have people, and I've used myself as an example, you know, I grew up in a housing project. Just about everybody I grew up with is washed out, gone, ruined, dead, in prison, whatever. And I wasn't even in one that was all that bad. You know, we're not talking like hardcore, like good times housing projects here. Okay. It wasn't that bad to, as far as that type of a housing development goes for HUD housing or whatever. But, and of course I come from an abusive household. My mother was terribly abusive, physically, psychologically. You reach a point where you are the one making the decisions. You're the one making the choices. You can blame the past all you want, but it's still the past. And yeah, it may be hard, and the past may be part of who you are, but it doesn't have to define you. And there's too many people that choose to just hang on that, drag drag the chains. They're like Marley from Scrooge with all these chains and locks and boxes and stuff, dragging the past with them everywhere, using it as excuses for why they're miserable, why they're evil to people. It's incredible. And Bam says, yes, people. It's too many. It's everybody. And then when someone wants to change, they want to change everybody else. And it's like the only person you can really truly change is yourself. And hopefully, by default, be an influence on your children. They'll look at you and say, okay, I want to be like mom. I want to be like dad. You know, I get them. They're good people, whatever, for whatever the reason is. And, you know, break that generational curse. But yeah, we're in a bad place. We're in a bad place right now. Cruising says complacency with being ignorant and low information. Yeah, low information voters. Who used to say that? Who used to call people low information voters? Sweetie, don't drink my tea. Don't drink my tea. That's got caffeine in it. It's not good for cats. Derp says find a channel called Jamatra Effect Sports after this stream and dig into this. And PV says got to go for now. Thumbs up, folks. Well, thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. Everybody who joins us is much appreciated, unless they're a complete butthole, and it does happen occasionally. And he says, thumbs up, folks. Yes, indeed. Thank you. They say, the rumor has it, as I've put it before, that the thumbs up helps with the algorithm. I don't believe that, but I appreciate it. And Helter says, Samuel Popkin coined the term low information in 1991. And Megan says, my kids think I'm nuts. I'm the last person they would refer to. And Paul says, thumbs up. Thank you, Paul. And I'm going to, we talked about this last week, and I'm going to follow it up. And yeah, are you sitting down? You're going to need to when you see these pictures. As soon as it pops up here, I'll read one more comment and we'll get into it. And this comes from the New York Post. Urban says, I would posit that people's everyday silences are the fodder for those who would turn us all into captive trial volunteers and effectively nationalize all private holdings via anti-business policies. Again, this is from the New York Post, and we were talking about this person last week. And this is because he was put on administrative leave and then hired back or allowed back into the classroom with armed security to protect him from the parents and students who almost all of them are complaining about this guy. And this is the so-called transmogrified shop teacher with the massive double Z prosthetic breasts, because he's been getting caught by journalists. Some journalist has been trolling this guy, following him around, because when he's not at school, he doesn't dress like that. How interesting. Canadian transmogrified, and I say that on purpose, teacher confronted by reporter after, quote, I'm saying, quote, because who knows, was spotted leaving mall without Z-cup prosthetic breasts. Canadian transmogrified teacher who made headlines for wearing fake Z-cup breasts to class was confronted by a reporter after she was spotted out in public for the second time without prosthetics. Kayla Lemieux was recently approached by Rebel News reporter as she was leaving the Mapleview Mall in Burlington, Ontario. Good Lord. Footage of the encounter shows. Sorry, I just got ambushed. You see, the other kitten just went behind me, and now I've got this one just attacked me. It's another one for the collection. Derp says that's how you can tell he's a puppet to push an agenda. And Cruising says, I feel like the guy is God tier protester of the alphabet nuttery. And that could be, or it could be something else. Because we speculated on that last time when we talked about it. And Deanna says, oh, this guy is the worst troll. And, trying to catch up the comments here, flooding in. Rodney made a $10 donation to the channel. Thank you, Rodney. Much appreciated. He says, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Yeah. Well, if they do nothing, are they good men? Or I think good men are silenced. Here we go. Mr. Lemieux, where are your breasts? I thought the breasts were real. Where are your breasts? The reporter David Menzies shouted at her as she attempted to get into a waiting Uber. Lemieux, a shop teacher at Oakville Trafalgar High School, was put on leave last month after the Post revealed she often goes without her prosthetics outside the classroom. Post photos showed a dressed-down Lemieux wearing men's clothing with no sign of wig or makeup. Controversy erupted and gained international attention after photos and video of Lemieux wearing the prosthetics inside her classroom went viral. In a sit-down with the Post, Lemieux said she began undergoing hormone replacement in 2021 and was in transition. She also said her breasts were caused by a condition called gigantomastia, which is caused by excessive breast tissue growth. Lemieux, however, did admit that she had never been officially diagnosed. So she's claiming to have the medical condition gigantomastia, but admits that the breasts are prosthetic. So is it sympathetic gigantomastia? Did I miss something? And thank you again, Rodney. All donations help a lot with taking care of the cats in our little makeshift cat shelter. Dragon says Kayla is doing this on purpose. He has it out for the Canadian education system, so he came up with the most outrageous character the school board would have to regard as genuine. And that's possible. I haven't heard further about this. Either he's trying to get over on the school or he's trying to expose the school system. You know what I mean? All People says, no way is that Canadian teacher a transistor. Yeah. And Fluke Man says, I know someone who had a terrible father, and the father figures he looks up are characters he's seen on avian TV movies, Rocky Balboa, A-Team, Knight Rider. He should watch Kung Fu with David Carradine. I always wished Master Po was my father. He would make an outstanding father. Urban says, note there will be a coast-to-coast march in Canada on September 20th for the Leave Our Kids Alone campaign, and bless them. Prayers for that. I'll have to remember that, and so my wife and I can pray on it. So what is that called again? Leave Our Kids Alone campaign, Canada, September 20th. Megan says, and I'll put that back up there again so people can see it for a second. So there he is as the shop teacher, looking insane, makeup, wig, and prosthetic boobs. And there he is without it when he's out and about, when he's not. And I would love to find out that, just like that South Korean cyclist who is claiming to be transmogrified and is beating women's cycling records and claiming that he's doing it on purpose to show that it isn't fair and that he knows he doesn't deserve the medals. So it'd be interesting if that is what it turns out that this person is doing. I would love to find out that that's what it is. Megan says if she could wear those to school, kids should stuff big sausages or socks in their pants. Oh, that they get in trouble for. Monkey says, yeah, that Kayla at this point has to be effing with the Canadian public school system, and I hope that's what it is. And DIY says, good men sometimes do nothing to buy their family more time, but at the end they come for you all. So better to stand and fight. That's a good point. And Monkey says, oh yeah, Rebel News is going after that woman. I recognize the media outlet. And Shozan says, bro, people are insane. Yes, the hell they are. People are crazy. All people are a little crazy. It all depends on how crazy you're talking about. Urban says, David Menzies is a reporter from the Rebel News, one of the truth tellers in Canada who have been harassed by all levels of government, I bet. And Mega says, you're right, I wouldn't keep them in, but the asshole in me wants to compete for the Crazy Award. That's okay. And Cruising says he looks a bit like Chris Farley. A bit like Chris Farley. And here, this is the one who's, holy, come on, Squirmy. That's the one who is causing me all the trouble. He's the runt, and he's got the big ears. If I can get him to look forward. It's all right, buddy. I'm not messing with you. You can sit down. And Derp says I put money on it that he's a Jehu. Okay. And Derp says those guys hate the West and their way of life. But just thought I would share that since we have talked about that just recently. And yeah, it would be great if it turns out that it was a plan all along to showcase the stupidity of it. If he came forward and said that, I would really be pleased to hear that. And Derp says he's a little cutie. Yeah, he is. And Yahoo Waha says, name him Buddy. Buddy. That's the one I think. Oh, I can't remember. One of them sleeps on top of my head, and he wakes me up licking my forehead, licking my eyebrows and stuff. And Derp says I call my one cat Tiny Buddy. And there's Dusty shifting around. And the other one on the keyboard back there, if you can see him. Just get you a shot real quick. There he is. And there I am. I know you'd rather see the cats. That's okay. That would be great if that's what happened. Now, do you know if Urban, if that was it? Where did I lost my place? I lost my place. Were you the one that was talking about? If I catch up, yes, you were. The Leave Our Kids Alone campaign. Are they doing that anywhere else or just in Canada? Although Canada needs it as much as anyone else because they've gone complete totalitarianism on their people. It's crazy. The people in Canada are really being crushed. Australia, New Zealand, all over the West, people are getting squeezed, and they're trying to turn it into a socialist government, and they want to call it democratic socialism, which is an oxymoron. It doesn't matter how you rename it or rephrase it, it's still socialism, and it still historically has never worked. And the reason it doesn't work is because of who's in charge. Any form of government can be made to work in a way that is beneficial for people. All of them can be made to work for the people. if you can trust the people that are in charge. And that is never the case. That is never the case. And Fluke says there's a group called LGB Against Trans. They don't like them. They don't like them and they don't get along. The rainbow flag is a lie because those groups do not mix well together. And Megan says claiming that he has gynecomastia is almost stolen valor. It's a slap in the face to people who really suffer from that illness, just like alopecia and Jada Pickett Smith. Yeah, that's right. I remember she made that claim, and it really looks like burns from hair curler. She don't have alopecia. I don't know where the hell that comes from, but I remember that. I remember that coming up when that fake slap happened, because I'm convinced that that was staged and that they just lost control of the narrative, and that's how that went down. But that's a good point, Megan. But anyway, we'll go ahead and start wrapping up. Miss Kitty is here. There's Miss Kitty hiding under my desk. I don't know why she's bothering me. She must need something. But here we go. One more here. One more. Derp says the countries like Thailand, Philippines, Mexico don't have anything like what we're going on in the Western countries. This is how people should realize it's an attack or an act of war. And Urban says, as far as I know, it takes place at the Parliament and legislative buildings in each province of Canada. Not sure if there's a U.S. counterpart. If I find it, I'll leave it in the comments. Okay, thank you. Much appreciated. But we'll go ahead and we'll sign off. Thank you for everybody for joining us today. Much appreciated. Hope you all have a good day. Hope you got something out of the conversation. We will be doing this again tomorrow. Again, this is at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube and Prepper University on YouTube. And also, you can find me at fistfulofradio.com Monday through Thursday. Is it Monday through Thursday at 5? Monday through Thursday at 5 and Friday at noon, unless something changed. So please join us there. And of course, as always, thanks to everybody who made a donation, because it does help us to take care of all of our strays. So thanks again, and we'll do this again soon.